starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi all. Hi Eric and Rakesh. Hi all. Am I audible? Hey Rakesh. Can you guys just reply on the chat please? Welcome to the Edureka's online training on Microsoft Azure Certification. And by this module, we are going to speak about the infrastructure. We'll be speaking about the virtual machines, how you can deploy your virtual machine from your Azure portal, what are the components that you have, what are the parameters that you should have on your mind when you put up a virtual machine, all those things. So let's start with this. And the objective that we have for this module 2 is that By the end of this training, you will come to know about how to set up a virtual machine in Azure, how to create the Windows and Linux virtual machines. You will also come to know about creating a VM using images and scaling up the ARM virtual machines, how you can do scaling, all those things, right? Well, hi Rakesh. I hope I'm audible, right? Cool then. Hi Shuvendu. Yes. Well, so let's go ahead. I just started with it. I was expecting for your response. So, I just started with an introduction, and it's about that we are here to discuss for the module two, which is about the virtual machines on Azure, and we will be speaking about the how to set up a virtual machine on Azure, how to create a Windows and Linux based virtual machines, and how to create a VM using images and the scaling features here. Okay, so that's the objective that we have for today. And let's start with the Azure virtual machine. Let's understand what the virtual machine is about. The Azure virtual machine is it's going to be a on-demand machine where it is going to scale the computing resource, right? So it's like it has an image. Let's say it can be either I can say that I need a Windows Server machine, or I can even say that I need a Ubuntu some version of the machine, or I can call this CentOS, or I can even say with an image that I need a Visual Studio Community 2017 with Windows Server assets. So that's like a image that Azure supports. So you can put up your virtual machine with any of the images or any of the operating system that Azure supports for you. And secondly speaking, you have a flexibility where you are not going to buy the machine, you're not going to buy the hardware. Instead, you're just going to pay for the image and the configuration of the size, like your virtual CPUs, your RAM, your storage, for those things alone of what you're going to use. So that's second parameter. And third one that we have here is you have to maintain the VM by configuring it, and you need to maintain the patching, and you need to install the software that runs on it. So you will just say that I need to install this software as either as an extension, or you can even get into the server machine and you can install the software there, and you can manage the patching here. But speaking about the fault tolerance, or speaking about, let's say, by the time of socket failure or by the time of update that's happening at the application level or anything like that, Azure will ensure that the fault tolerance will be maintained by Azure. The virtual machine will not go down, or there will be no downtime for the application where you will find a SLA or anything like that on Azure. It's not possible for a SLA. It's like Azure will maintain that your machine is always available. It will not say that the patching is going on, so the machine is going to be down or anything like that. And the Azure VM also offers a variety of virtual machine sizes and the compatibility. So you need to check the size, which one you're going to use before you're going to let it down. Okay. So you need to check it before you deploy the virtual machine. So that's another important parameter. Hi Rakesh, voice is a bit low from your side. Rakesh, I could not find any internet glitches from my side. If it is there, I will get an alert. Okay, so can you check the internet from your side, please? How about others? Is my voice is clear? Shuvendu Srikant? Yeah, fine. Thanks for the response, Srikant and Shuvendu. Rakesh, can you just check the internet from your side, please? Or if you're still facing the issue, try rejoining. It's not about the maximum volume, it's about the speed of the internet. So just check for the internet, please. It's not like I'm speaking low or anything like that, so please check for the internet. Cool. The next one that we have here is about the Azure VM and how we can use it. The Azure VM can be used for different scenarios, like you can say that I'm going to do a deployment, or I'm going to do the testing for staging, anything like that. In those cases, you can use this virtual machine. The Azure virtual machines offer a quick and easy way to create a computer with the specific configurations required to code and test an application. So, which means that you're going to put up a VM. Let's say you're going to put up a Windows Server VM, or you're going to put up a Linux based VM, and you will run your application. You will even set up a developer environment, or you will set up the testing environment on the server machine, which will process high availability. So that's one scenario where we will be using it. And the next scenario that we'll be using here is to put up your applications. So let's say your application is like it has a huge environment. It's like huge workload, like let's say a Flipkart, or let's even speak about other like PayPal or anything like that. In those cases, you need a standalone. You need an isolated virtual machine. You're not going to be at PaaS service. You're going to be at IaaS, where you need to maintain it. You need to maintain the shutdowning time of the virtual machine. You need to maintain the patch of the virtual machine, the networking layer of the virtual machine. In those cases, again, you will like go for Azure VM. And next is extended data center. So the virtual machines are normally available on Azure VNet, and that will help you to connect with the on-premise environment. So whenever you go for a hybrid level, that you have a machine which is at on-premise and you have a machine which is there at cloud. In that scenario, you will go for the extended data center. So the extended data center means that you have a data center which is at on-premise, which is a private cloud, and you're also going to work with a machine which is there at Azure. So that's one another machine which is there on Azure, which makes the connectivity of both these things as a hybrid cloud. So that's another factor. Here goes setting up the Azure virtual machine. So when you set up a Azure virtual machine, you need to know about all these parameters. We have a public IP address, we have a network interface card, we have a virtual network, we will have a virtual machine disk followed by a storage account. So now I will explain you this architecture where the public IP address is an IP address which is given to the end user, and the public IP address will be used to communicate with the virtual machine, and this communication will be taken forward with help of the network where the VM has been deployed, and that will be taken by means of network interface card. Okay, that's NIC. And the virtual machine is nothing but, here we say it as compute resource. It's like you are allocating your virtual CPUs. You're saying that I need this many CPUs, I need this resource and this particular operating system. So it's all about what you are going to specify here. It's normally we call it as size. And the VM disk is that it might be your data disk. I mean, it can be your OS disk, or it could be even your secondary disk that you're going to attach. So that's storage. So you will be creating a disk where we are going to attach with this virtual machine. Here we have the methods to create a virtual machine. So we have different methods. You can deploy using Azure Portal, you can deploy using the ARM templates, Azure PowerShell, client SDKs, or even using REST APIs. Now I'll explain you one by one. The very first thing that it has been briefed here, which is Azure Portal, is that you go for portal.azure.com, you create a virtual machine, and that's your Azure Portal. Templates is where you will use a template like let's say an ARM template, and you will put up a Visual Studio. I mean, you will use Visual Studio, and from there, using Azure Resource Group, you are going to deploy your template, which is an ARM template for for spinning up a virtual machine. So that's second one, which is templates. And thirdly, we have Azure PowerShell. Azure PowerShell is where you have a PowerShell ISC, and in the PowerShell ISC, you will give the command lines and you can spin up your VM there. The next one is your client SDKs. You can deploy Azure resources using the client SDKs by means of C Sharp. And then you have the REST APIs where you can create the VM or you can update the VM using the REST APIs from Visual Studio again. So these are all the multi ways that you can go up for deploying the virtual machine. So here we consider deploying it with Azure Portal. And when I speak about Azure Portal, as I briefed you earlier, we have two methods where we can put up the virtual machine. So let's say you have a classic mode and you have Azure Resource Manager mode. The classic mode is where it's an older one. It's like you have the older one, manage.windowsazure.com, the classic portal, and there you go, you spin up a virtual machine. So they're setting up the Azure resource limits or tagging the groups like using resource group. All those things are complicated when we had it on the classic mode. But now we are at a resource manager where the Azure Resource Manager takes the capability of managing the resource and you can deploy your Azure virtual machine over here. And as a resource manager, you're just going to add the concept of the resource group, and the resource group is going to be the container which will hold all the virtual machines that you will be having here. Either you can create a new resource group or you can even put it on an existing one. Now, to brief about, I will do that, Ashok. To brief about the client SDKs, you are going to script the program. Okay, you will build a program. Okay, same like a JSON, you will be using C Sharp from Visual Studio. You will be writing the program on C Sharp to deploy your virtual machine. Okay, that's client SDKs. Are you clear now, Ashok? Cool then. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, so here we are using the deployment model from the Azure portal, which is the Resource Manager one. So you can go to your Azure Resource Manager portal and you can click on New, where you should first put up a network. I hope you can make sense. See, in this layout, we have defined that first you need to put up a VNet, and only inside your VNet you will be having a virtual machine. So first we are going to create a virtual network, and inside a virtual network you will create subnets. Okay, so the Azure Resource Manager, you will be using it for deployment, and you need to create all these parameters as per your business requirements. You can put up a virtual machine, you can put up the components like a storage account, your VNet, your web app, your database, anything as such. So all these things can be done using Azure Resource Manager. And when you put up these things, you have the resource tiers for VM creation. So as a basic thing, you will have a resource group, and inside the resource group, you're going to spin up your VM. And when you want to put up your virtual machine, you need to plan the infrastructure where you need a VNet. Okay, so we are going to deploy a virtual network, and that will be available inside your resource group. You will create a storage account, which will be working as a storage for the component of your virtual machine. So that's again given here. The compute resource is where you're going to say the size of the virtual machine. And the network resource is where you're going to configure the firewall, your inbound and the outbound routes. Okay, so those things you'll be configuring here. At down the line, it's all going to be available inside your resource group. Okay, here we go with the steps to set up a virtual machine in Azure. So this is the first step, that you need to create a VNet, and then you need to create a storage account, or you can even go up with the size that we have to put up the virtual machine. You need to understand what the network interface card is. So before creating a virtual network, let's understand what the network interface card is about. The network interface card is allowed to communicate with the internet or with the on-premise machine on the virtual network towards the virtual machine which you have. Let's say you have one virtual machine on on-premise and one virtual machine which is running at cloud. Now, to communicate between both these things, you need a network interface card. Or let's say you're an end user, you need to communicate with a virtual machine, you need a network interface card. When you create a VM on the Azure portal, the portal will help you to create a network interface card. And if you're not configuring anything, it will defaultly create a network interface card for you. And without a network interface card, you cannot deploy a virtual machine. So before creating a network interface card, first remember we are going to put up a virtual network. Then we will come up to go with the network interface card and the network security group, all these things. So the step one is creating a VNet. So the Azure virtual network will enable you to securely connect the Azure resource. So that's like you're going to set up an isolated network environment. Okay. And for that, you need to know the address ranges. You need to know what a subnet is, all those things. Let's go for the demo of creating a virtual network. So to create a virtual network, you need to go for the Azure portal. You have to click on new networking. You need to go for VNet, and there you can give the name for the VNet, the address space that you're going to take, and the subnet name. That's the allocation within your virtual network. It all comes under CIDR, and you need to make sure that your subnet address will be available within the VNet address range that you're going to specify, and then you will put up a resource group where the VNet is going to be available within the resource group. Okay, so that's where we are going to create a virtual network, and we are going to create a resource group for a virtual network, and we will be deploying it. So let's go ahead and I will start creating this. Okay, just follow the same and then you can try it. Okay, so first let me complete it. I'll go to the Azure portal. Okay, so now I'm going to move for resource groups. I hope you guys remember yesterday we created a virtual machine, right? So let's go for that virtual machine. It is available on Edureka resource group. I can click on the lab virtual machine which I created, and I can click on start to start the virtual machine. So let's wait until the VM gets started. Okay, the VM is here started. Let's now connect for the virtual machine. So I hope you can see that the IP address has been changed. Let me copy this IP. I will connect using the remote desktop. The machine name is lab VM Edureka. Username and password. Let's give these things, and now let's try connecting it. Oh, let's try again. Okay, takes a long time. Let's check the IP. Oh, we have to start it again. Okay. Hi Eric, you don't try installing Visual Studio Enterprise. Please go for Visual Studio Community. I hope you remember I was speaking about community, not the enterprise one. Okay, there we go. Well, so there we go. Please make sense here, guys. Please make sense here. I'm going to create a VNet. Okay, just if you need, you can take a note of it and then you can try it. Okay, so that there will be no issues when we deploy it. So I'll go to the Azure portal now. Okay, so from here, from my virtual machine, I'll go to the Azure portal. Let's go for portal.azure.com and I can sign into my Azure account. Okay, so in case if you people are working with any corp network that you have the proxy issues, all those things, then work from the VM, please. Okay, I mean from the lab VM. If not, you will not be able to connect to the VM or you will not be able to create the resources. Okay. Eric, in that case, see the issue is it says that you need an MSDN subscription. So you need to activate your free trial, Eric. You don't have Azure subscription. You need to activate it. Go for your subscriptions, check it. Yesterday, Sunita, I guess Suchitra or Sunita, she was also having the same issue. You people need to activate your Azure subscription. Only then you can use it. So here I will go up for creating a VNet. Okay, so I will click on create a resource and I can go for networking. Please make sense here. I'm going for networking and then I will go for virtual network. So let's go for a virtual network and here I will create a VNet. Okay, so you have a name where you need to mention the name. I will mention the name as Edureka VNet. Okay, I hope you could understand. So it's going to be Edureka VNet and the address range you can give it here. Let's give it as 10.0.0/16. Is that okay? And next you can give the subscription. You can create a resource group. I will name the resource group as module 2-RG. So that's going to be my resource group name. I can select the data center location. I will say Southeast Asia. And the subnet name, I can name it here. I can name anything. Let's say I've named it as apps. And here you can give the address range for your subnet. So I will give it as 10.0.0/24. Okay. So that's address range I'm going to give. The DDoS protection is to come out with the attacks. Okay. And you have the service endpoints also. Let's leave these things. It's all the new features that we have. DDoS protection is for the protection and I mean to come up with a protection with your isolated network. And service endpoints is that you have the endpoint where you can make the service, I mean you can have the check for the endpoint on the subnet level. So let's disable that. I'll click on pin to dashboard and let's create this VNet now. So I hope you guys could make sense. The address range is 10.0.0.0/16. Okay. And for the subnet, I have given it as 10.0.0.0/24. If you people are not familiar with CIDR, then please go with the same one. Okay. Eric, I hope you remember I was letting you guys to activate the free trial yesterday. You should go for azure.microsoft.com and from there you need to activate your free trial. Hi Rakesh. Yeah, DDoS is the denial of the external connectivity. Okay, it's for security features that we have here. So now I have created a VNet and inside the VNet I'm going to create subnet. So let's go for subnets and I will add a subnet. I'll click on add subnet and I've named this as data. Okay. So you can create multiple subnets within the VNet and this address range should be available within your virtual network. So I will name it as subnet as data and I can click on OK where the VNet is now deployed. So you can go to the overview. You can find we have the address space. We have deployed a VNet, and in the subnet, we have two address ranges inside that. Well, go ahead and try deploying the same, please. Let me know if you have any questions. I will be at mute. Try deploying the virtual network, please. Uh, Rakesh, I'll tell you once again. See, the DDoS is for security. Okay, it's for the security level from the virtual network where it will not allow any external agents. Okay, any external requests to get routed up over there. So that's the DDoS attack that we get it. And here we are going to enable the DDoS attack with different plans that we have here. Okay, and it works at the DNS level. Are you clear, Rakesh? Cool. So try deploying the VNet and let me know if you have any questions, please. Hi Eric. To create a VNet, I have to be on resource group. No, Eric. It's not mandatory that you should have a resource group. You can create a resource group by the time that you're going to put up a VNet. Hi Shivindu, sure. So once after you put up your VNet, you will be landing up on this page, on the overview page. Okay. And from there, go for subnets. You can find subnets here. On the settings, you have subnets. And there you can click on subnet, adding a subnet, and you can add it over there. Ashish, I hope your answer is, I mean, your question is answered. Cool. Hi Shivindu, why we are adding subnet? Cool, that's a nice question. So your VNet is where it's like you have a huge address ranges that you have taken it as reserved, right? And inside your VNet, you can create sub allocations. Let's say for apps, you can put up virtual machines separately. For data, you can put up virtual machines separately. So you need a sub allocation within the virtual network address ranges. Okay. And for that, we create a subnet. So when you create a VM, you will call a VNet, and inside the VNet, you will tell the subnet on which the VM has to be associated with. Are you clear? Cool. Anytime. Hi Shrikant. Created VNet. Okay, you're saying VNet. Okay, and subnet. Cool. That sounds good. Let's wait for others. If they have completed, then we can go for the next. Can you guys just post me an update if you have completed? Let's go for the next. Okay, cool then. So let's go ahead and I will start on this. Well, so the next one is about creating a storage account. Okay, so a storage account is a mandatory one of the resource that you're going to put up for the virtual machine. And here we are going to create a storage account which is going to be associated towards your virtual machine, and you can create it either by using Azure Portal or by even using a PowerShell, anything like that. Here we will be using the Azure Portal, and let's go for the demo of creating a storage account. So you need to go for new storage, and you can say storage account, which is of blob files, tables, and queues. And there you can create a storage account. Okay. So you have different storage account types as general purpose one, but there are changes on this. I will show you on real time. Okay. The general purpose is where it will help you to create a storage account with blobs, files, tables, and queues. The blob storage, you have another option which says that just a blob storage, and that will help you to put up only blob storage. You will not have the access for files, tables, and queues. And you have the disk performance level, which has been splitted up as standard and premium. The standard one is a normal hard disk that you're going to use, and it will be giving you a performance down when compared towards the solid state drive. So that has the maximum IOs, and it gives you a low latency disk support, all those things. But those functionalities are not available here, but still it's reliable that you can go for the standard one. Okay. And the replication type that we have here is you will be having locally redundant, you will be having geo redundant, all those things. And here for the virtual machine for on the operating system level, you'll be going up with a storage which is a blob storage. So you need to create a blob storage account where you can put up all your unstructured data over there. Okay. So then we have this locally redundant, all these things. Let me show you on the portal. I can go here, I can see create a resource. I can go for storage here, and I will click on storage account, which is blobs, files, tables, and queues. So here you can name it as, let's say Edureka. I will call it as Edureka STR. And the deployment model, resource manager is a new one, classic is an older one. Okay. So I will go for deployment model, which is resource manager. You have account kind, which is general purpose V2, and blob storage. So general purpose is where it gives you the access for blobs, files, tables, and queues. The general purpose V2 is where you have access for the hot tier and cool tier, and it works with encryption again. So it's common with others also. But the hot tier is where you will have the frequently accessed data, and the cool tier will be where you have the infrequent access of data. And next you have blob storage, where you can just create a storage for blob operations alone. You can just have the objects. You cannot work with files, tables, and queues. Okay. So here let's go with general purpose V1. I'll select the location here. I'll say it is Southeast Asia. Replication, you have locally redundant where the replica is maintained on the same data center. Geo-redundant is where you will be having three replica copies on the master data center and three at some other data center region, which is your secondary data center region. Read access geo-redundant storage is where you're going to create three nodes, I mean three instance, or I cannot say instance, I can say three copies that will be having there at primary data center, and other three will be there at secondary data center, which is another data center region, the different data center region, and it can have only read access over there. Okay, so that's read access geo-redundant storage. I'll select locally redundant here, and you have the disk performance standard disk, which is hard disk drive, and premium is your solid state drive. I will go for standard here. You have secure transfer, which is required. This comes up with having a secured connection for your REST APIs. Okay, so let's disable this. I can select the subscription and I will put it on the resource group which I already have. So I have a resource group which is module 2-rg. I'll deploy there, and if you need you can even create a vnet, okay, for the storage account, and you can call the vnet which is available on the same resource group. Let's just disable this as of now, and I will click on pin to dashboard and let's create it now. So there goes the storage account which we are going to deploy. Okay, so now we have created a vnet, and followed by that we have also created a storage account. So the storage account is getting created here. Meanwhile, I'll brief you these slides. So we have done the replication, and we have done the storage service encryption also, okay, which is the security layer. And you have deployed it, or you have tagged it for the resource group where you're going to deploy. And then the storage account is created. Let's wait for the deployment to be completed. Or meanwhile, even you guys can try the same. Try deploying the storage account, please. So once after you deploy it, you will get it like this. You can get into the storage account. You can find we should have blobs, files, tables, and queues. And since I selected locally redundant, it will be available only at one data center region, which is Southeast Asia. Any questions? Cool. Hi Shrikant, network problem. I have reconnected it again. Doesn't mean Shrikant, that's fine. Try deploying your storage account and let me know if you have any issues, please. I can help you out if you have any questions. Try deploying a storage account now. I hope you all have done with creating a virtual machine, right? Creating a VNet, right? Okay, so now go ahead with storage account. Okay. Rakesh, I will just repeat the same. Okay. The different types that we have in the storage account is locally redundant, where you will have three copies, okay, of the data what you have at the same data center region. Geo-redundant is where you will be having three copies at the master data center, which is primary data center, and three more copies which will be there at secondary data center region. Okay. Read access geo-redundant is where the secondary data center region will be made as just read access alone, read only. It's not with read and write. Okay, are you clear? There is an automation option when we click on deploy. Yeah, it's like actually you can take the templates there, Shuvendu, And see, you can find it here. You have the automation script. Once, even after you deploy, you can find the scripts. So we were speaking about the client SDKs, all right? So the code will be automatically generated by Azure. You can just use the same. You can download that and you can deploy using PowerShell or by Visual Studio, anything like that. Will you show them as well? You mean for the automation? Yeah, but we don't have it right now. Okay, we will be working from the PowerShell as well. Let's complete this now. Okay, and once when we switch on to the PowerShell, we will go ahead with the same. Okay, storage account is created. Cool, that sounds good, Shuvendu. How can I change subscription name? Yesterday I left it to default settings and my subscription name is pay as you go. Hey, Ashish, that should not be there. You should not go for pay as you go. It's not about changing the subscription name. It is about you have selected pay as you go, which means that you will pay from your credit card. Are you ready to pay for it? You should use free trial. So decline that. You should decline that. Cancel the subscription. Try creating free trial. I was repeating it severally times. You should go for free trial, not for pay as you go. Pay as you go in the sense you're going to pay from your credit card. So the storage account which you have created, you're going to pay for it. Actually, my account is linked with the company or the corporate account. That sounds good, but Ashish, and I could spend few bucks. Well, but oh, have you linked your credit card then? Is the company is going to pay you or you're going to pay for it? Okay, your company credit card. Then that sounds good. Not an issue. Fine then. So let's go ahead and okay, yeah, fine. So here the next is about creating a virtual machine. Okay, so we have deployed the network interface and we have deployed the storage account and now we are going to put up the VM. So to put up a virtual machine, you need to make sense with the sizes. We have different size that comes up with a virtual machine. The general purpose that we have for development and test scenarios that we'll be using here is your general purpose machine, which comes up with DSV2, which comes up with DV2, DSD, AV2, A0 to A7, all these things. So you have a balanced CPU to memory ratio over here, and this can be used for development or test scenarios. It cannot be used for some graphic oriented things, or it cannot be used for SAP oriented data warehousing or gaming purpose like that all. Okay, so that's general purpose. You have compute optimized next, which is FS series or F series. where you have a high CPU to memory ratio, and this can be used for gaming purpose, batch processing, web servers, analytics, those things. Next, you have memory optimized, where we have the G series that comes up with the graphics. Okay, you have a graphic card, and you will be having the large SQL database that you can run over here. You can use it for SAP, you can use it for ERP. Okay, for those things, you can use memory optimized. Storage optimized is where you use for big data operations. You use it for putting up your Cosmos DB or Cassandra, or let's even say some large transactional database. You can put it up over here. So it has a high disk throughput and I/O. The next is your GPU, which comes up with the graphics rendering. That's your NV series and NC series, which comes up with huge virtual GPUs that you have here, and you can run your gamings or you can have your remote utilization over here. The next is high performance compute, where we have H or we have A8 to A11, which is used for fluid dynamics and for batch processing and analytics purpose. So this is the most fastest machine that we have, and it has a high throughput capacity with the CPU virtual machines. Okay. So before you put up your virtual machine, you need to know what are all the different sizes that you have, what can fit in for your scenario, and you should also make sense about the pricing. So you can go for Azure pricing. We have Azure pricing calculator. So we have this pricing calculator. You can select the size. Okay. So I'll go for virtual machines. And then you can just click on view. You can select the data center region, the operating system that you're going to use, the type that you have. So once when you give all those things, you will get a cost cut off here. Okay. So you need to make sense with this before you deploy. So now let's go for the demo of creating a Windows VM. So you can go to the Azure Portal and you can click on create new compute, and you can select the Windows Server machine, and you can select either the hard disk or a solid state one. So your hard disk one is a standard disk, your solid state one is a premium disk. And next you can give the username and the password. It's same like what you gave yesterday, and you can tag it towards a resource group. So now the point is you should tag it towards the same resource group where you have the virtual network and your storage account. The next one which we have here is creating the size. So you put up creating a VM size, and then we will have the disk utilization. You can say either you're going to use a managed disk or you're going to use an unmanaged disk. The managed disk is where you're going to handle the storage account creation in the background. Okay. So, I mean, it's all will be taken care by Azure. You're not going to do that. The storage account creation, all those things, Azure will take care. And you're just going to work on the storage and scaling the VM up and down as you add the disk or the storage allocation, the configuration, the scalability limits. All these things will be taken care by Azure. So that's managed, and unmanaged is where all these things like creating a storage account, all these things you need to take care about. So when you say no, you're going to create a storage account here. Okay, you need to create a storage account. You should say either it's going to be a hard disk or it's going to be a solid state one. You need to mention the replication type, all those things. So here we are going to use the existing account, the existing storage account which we have created now. And then you can configure the VNet. You will call the existing VNet. You will call the subnet which has been allocated with. And then we will also call the machine which we have here. So the network security group for the machine, it holds the firewall rules. You can configure firewall rules here, the inbound and the outbound rules. Okay, the communication with the server machine and which goes out of the server machine. You can mention it over there. And next we have the extensions. The extension allows you to add small applications like antivirus software or any, let's say, a small minute SDK, something like that. So you can use extensions to add that. Okay. So that we can do it here. You can use the agents like PowerShell DSC or anything to put up this. And the next one that we have here is about the availability set. We will be using availability set to make sure that the VM will be always available. Okay. by the time of, let's say, the patch level of updates. So you have two things, right? You have planned maintenance and you have unplanned maintenance. The planned maintenance is where you're going to schedule that by this time the VM will get restarted, the VM will get updated like that. So that's a downtime for your customers. And the unplanned maintenance is by the time of the socket failure or by the time of natural disaster, something like that. So in either of these scenarios, Azure will make sure that the machine is available. Okay. So that's high availability where we call it with fault domains and update domains here. So you will say update domain, which is going to be the number that you're going to allocate. So you will be having a data center. I will just show you I can show you here. Consider you will be having a, sorry, let me make sense. Give me a sec. Give me one sec. Yeah, now I will show you. So consider you have the data center like this. Okay, you, what happened? I need a pin to be used here. Okay. Well, I'm not getting it. So consider you have data centers. Okay, I can show you. Let's find some images so that you can make sense. Update domain and fault domain. Yes, this image can help you out. So this is a data center, okay, and it has data racks. Now you can find that the fault domain has been managed like this. You have fault domain 0, fault domain 1, fault domain 2. And all these racks will be connected towards the same power socket. So when this power socket, let's consider this is a power socket, and when this gets failed, the entire data rack goes down. In that case, what Azure will do is that you're saying here, see the image that has been mentioned here, you can see you're mentioning it as fault domain as 2. So when this goes down, when this rack goes down, Azure will ensure that the another rack will be working for you because you have said it is 2. So you have fault domain 0 and you have fault domain 1. When this goes down, fault domain 1 will be working for you. Whereas the update domain is you have update domain 0, you have update domain 1 here, and then update domain 2, and you will be having update domain 3 on this data rack. Now the point is, let's say when this gets, see this image, you can find it here. When this rack, this has been made as a group, okay? This entire thing is a group. This entire update domain, the second rack is a group, the third rack is a group. So when the first rack gets updated, Azure will ensure that the second rack will be available for the customers. And again, when the second rack gets updated, the prior one will be available. Okay, the previous one will be available for sustaining the workloads. So that's why we go up with the update domains. Okay, so we come up with update domains for planned maintenance and fault domains for unplanned maintenance. So you need to configure that here. And next, you're going to use the monitoring agents where you come up with the boot diagnostics. It will take a log, it will save the entire boot configured things on the storage account about what the virtual machine is going on with. And then you too have a diagnostic storage account where the diagnostic storage account will collect the logs, the diagnostic log data, and again it will create a storage account and it will put it on the storage account for further usage. So finally, you have download templates and parameters. You can download the JSON files where you can even use the same from Visual Studio or from PowerShell to deploy your virtual machine. So you can find it here. You will find download templates and parameters, and the summarized blade will speak about the entire components, what you have configured, and the pricing over there. So when you click on OK, your VM will be deployed. So you can just click on OK and you can find the VM will be deployed. Okay. So now let's go ahead and let's start working on the same. Any questions? Hi Rakesh, what is JSON and what are the usage? Okay, Rakesh, JSON is a language. Okay, same like what you have, like you have Angular, right? You have Node.js. Same like that, JSON is a language. Okay, it's JavaScript based, and you're going to write the scripts there, which is a lightweighted one, and you can use that to put up your applications. Okay, it might be a virtual machine, or it might be anything that you need to configure on the VM. You can use JSON to go up with. Okay, JSON is lightweighted. It is the most simplest and it's lightweighted. Okay, it's JavaScript object notation, and you can use the same for deploying the instances or any resource. Hi Sujita. No, you no need to know JSON language. Okay, you no need the command. I see here you can find it, right? I hope you can find it on the screen. You will be coming up with the templates. Okay, you will come up. See, I can show you. I have the no, not this one. I have the scripts with me. I can show you. Okay, but you no need to worry about it. You no need to know JSON. Okay, it's just to know that you can also download from there. That's it. Is that okay? For this certification track, you no need JSON to understand. Cool then. So now let's go ahead with the demo. I will go for the home page and I'll try deploying the VM now. So I have a VNet and I have a storage account. I'm going to create a VM now. Okay. Hi Rakesh. Yeah, Jason is the one which is going to come up with a template. That's it. Okay. So here I'll click on create a resource and I'll go for compute. Let's select Windows Server 2016 data center. And the first blade where I'm going to configure basics. So I will say it's Edureka VM1, the name of the VM. Either you can use the hard disk or the solid state drive here. I'll select hard disk and let's give a name, demo user, password as demo at pass123. So you can even use the same. And resource group, I'll use the same resource group where I have deployed my VNet and storage accounts. So it's module 2-RG. You have the location which has been selected. We don't have the license with us, so select no for that and click on OK to go for the next blade. And here you need to select the size, depends upon the business scenario that you have. Okay, so for me, I can just go with the A series. I'm just going to use it for development and test purpose, so I can go for A series, which is cost less. I'll click on select. And here we are going to configure each and everything. So in the previous lab VM, you did not configure all these things. We just clicked on OK, right? So here let's configure these things. First, when you come for the settings, make sure that you go for the disk. Okay. So I will say that I will use an unmanaged disk. I already have a disk with me. So I will select unmanaged disk and I will call the disk which we already have. So I created Edureka storage, right? So I will call that disk and I will create the availability set now. So let's click on availability set. I'll go for create new and I'll create the availability set. Let me name the availability set as Edureka AV set. Okay, I'll name it as Edureka availability set. Let's leave the default as fault domain 2 in count and update domain as 5. Let's click on OK. So now the availability set is created. You need to create this availability set by the time you put up the virtual machine. Okay, you cannot configure it once after the VM is deployed. So by the first time itself, you need to do that. The next one that we have here is, you can scroll down, you can find virtual network. You can call the VNet which is already available. So we created this VNet, Edureka VNet, you can call that. And the subnet, we created two subnets, apps and data. You can tag it for any of the thing which you need. So I'll select apps here. The next one is your public IP address. You can click on public IP. You can say either you're going to use a basic one or the standard one. If it's basic, you can say it's going to be again the static or the dynamic one. Let's leave this as a default. A network security group is where you're going to configure the firewall. You can name the NSG here. You can add the inbound rule and the outbound rule here. Okay. So let's say source can be any, port range you have it here, destination anything can be allowed. Let's say destination port range will be 80. Okay, and I will say this as rule 1, or you can even just say HTTP, something like that. Let's say rule 1 here, and I'll click on add to add this rule. So you can find the rule 1 gets added up. You can just click on OK to add this in S3. And if you want to add any software, you can go for extensions and you can add extension and you can click on the agent that you're going to use here. You can use Puppet, you can use Chef, all those things. We don't need all these things, so I'll just click on OK. And you can configure auto shutdown, which is a cost cutoff. You can just say on and you can represent the time by when the VM has to be created, or sorry, it has to be shut down. And you can select the time zone here. So that's auto shutdown, and you can process a notification before it's going to shut down. So I will say I can give an email ID here, and it can process auto shutdown. It will process an email before it shuts down. Okay. Next, monitoring. You can enable the monitoring, and you have a storage account which gets created, and the logs get saved over there. The next one that we have here is service identity. You can register with Azure AD. Okay, the one which you're going to create here, it can be registered with Azure AD. I can click on no for this. And next we have backup. You can enable backup and you can set the policy when it has to take a backup. You can set a timing, all those things. These things we'll be discussing on the further modules. So let's just click on disabled and I'll click on OK. So the settings blade is now configured. And next we have the validation which gets passed and you get the pricing here. So it's going to cost me 3 rupees and 96 paise for an hour. You can just click on create to deploy this VM now. So now the VM which is Edureka VM1 is getting deployed with using the same VNet and the storage account. Any questions? Any questions, guys? Okay, cool then. Thanks for the update. You can go ahead and try deploying the same, please. Yeah, go ahead, Shivendu. Go ahead with creating it. NSG require two network instances. NSG, you no need to put up two network instances over here, Rakesh. You can just configure the inbound or outbound. It's up to you, or you can even go up with the default one. Just makes sense over there. Hi, Shivendu. Any questions? Is there any naming convention to be followed? Nothing like that. You can just go with whatever you have. I have deployed the VM. Is it deployed or it's getting deployed, Shwendu? Okay, cool. Even I'm waiting for the same. Let's wait for it, please. I can check it on my resource group. I should find it. It should be there. Yep. Edureka VM. Yeah, it's there. Cool. My VM is deployed now. Okay, you can find it here. I have Edureka VM1. I can pin to the dashboard so that will be comfortable for me. Right. So here I have Edureka VM1. Is that okay? So now connect with the VM, I can just copy this. Make sense here, then you guys can work. Okay. So I can copy this. I can go for the remote desktop. So this time let's do one thing. I will minimize this and I'll go for this one. Okay. So the name is Edureka VM1 and this is the IP address. Here goes the credentials. Cool. Now let's see. I'll click on continue. So there goes the Windows Server VM, which we have created now. Okay, so it gets loaded. Any questions? Well, so the VM gets loaded. Try deploying the same and log into the VM, please. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so there we go. My server machine is there. Okay. As your machines are getting deployed, let me know if you have any questions or you need some clarification. Please do let me know. If it's getting deployed, shall we have a break for some 10 minutes, guys? Cool. Thanks, Shurinder. Thanks for responding. So let's join by 10 minutes of time. Thanks, Sujita. Okay, that's fine, Rakesh. Let's make 15 minutes. I'm not able to connect to the VM after it has started. Hi, Shubhendu. What's the issue? What's happening? I mean, are you getting any error messages? What's the error message, Shubhendu? Remote access to the server not enabled. Shubhendu, that's the problem with your network, I guess. You have any proxy? You have any proxy blocks? Yeah, check it please. Or else even try from your lab VM, it should get connected. Well, shall we go ahead? So now we have created a VM, we have associated with the VNet, all these things, right? Now the next thing is that we can find we have something called disk. Okay, we created unmanaged disk which gets attached towards a storage account. So here we have the disk, and you can add more disk even by clicking on add data disk. You can click on add data disk, and you can click on the storage account, and you can add the disk over here. Okay, you can configure the unmanaged disk. You can set the container, and then you can go up with the same. So I will show you how you can do how you can do that. You can go to the, okay, let me close this. Yes, here I am, the Edureka VM1 which I created. I can go for my computer. I will go for this PC here. Cool. There it goes. So let's go for this PC, and here you can find we have a C disk, a OS data disk which is 126 GB, and a temporary disk which is 70 GB. Okay. Now let's make sense about attaching more disk on this. So what I can do here is I can go to the Azure portal, and I can click on the VM which has been created. I'll go for disk, and you can click on add data disk here. Okay, so let's click on add data disk, and here you can give the name for the disk. So here goes the default name which has been allocated. Source, if you already have a backup or anything, you can call it. You can say existing blob, and you can browse the blob. Okay, you can call the blob which we have. Say for example, I have it here. I can call it. Okay, I can call this. So we have a VHT backup. I can click on select. So it gets added up, and then I can click on OK where the disk gets added. And then you can select the host caching. Either it's going to be read only or it will be both read and write. I'll just make it as none, and let's click on save so that the data disk gets added up. Okay. The disk name Edureka VM1. Okay, fine. It's already available, right? So I will just go with a new one. Let's do one thing. I'll go for add a data disk. I'll create a new one, new empty disk. Size, let me say it would be 10 GB. Storage, let's click on browse. I'll go for Edureka storage. I'll call this. Let's click on select. And I'll name this as Edureka storage. Let's see if it gets added up. Okay. So there we go. The disk gets added now. The 10 GB data disk gets added up now. Okay. So once, yeah, here we go. The disk has been updated now. Now you can go to the virtual machine, and you can go to the server manager. Let's go for manage, or let's go for tools, and you can go for computer management. can go for disk management here. So here we get the disk, which I attach it now. So that's a new disk that we have here. I will click on OK. And here you should find we have the 10 GB which is unallocated. You can click here and let's make it allocated. Right, scroll down. Oh, I'm not able to right click. Give me a sec. Selecting this 10 GB. You need to allocate the volume, but I'm not able to right click. Okay, do one thing. Go here and right click on this disk. Okay, you should get, once when you right click on the disk, you will get the disk management. Okay, so when you right click here, right on this disk, you will get it. Okay, so go for the properties and you can make the volume to be allocated for this. Okay, just do that. I hope you guys could make sense. Here you can find when you right click, you will get the volume. Okay, so go there and allocate the volume for that with a drive letter. Okay, do that here. I'm not able to right click since it's a MacBook. I'm not able to right click here. You just try it, please. So once when you configure that, you can go to this PC, then you will find the 10 GB which will be available here. Were you able to follow, guys? I'm getting it. Give me a sec. You should get new simple volume. Yeah, I am getting this new simple volume. Yes. So I'll click on next and I can select the drive letter, all these things. And let's click on next. So we shall configure this. Okay, so I will click on finish. So the drive gets allocated now. It's getting formatted. It's formatted. I will click on format disk here. So there we go. You can find the 10 GB which is here. Is that okay? Okay, Rakesh, you can go here. You can click on add data disk. Name the disk here. Select empty disk. Okay. Select the storage account which I have already created and then click on OK. It will help you to create the unmanaged disk. Are you clear, Rakesh? Inside your VM, you have disk. There you have to click on add data disk. Try the same, please. Have you all done? Shivendu and others, can we go for the next? Have you all done? Oh, sorry, the chat panel is missed. Okay, added disk. Good. Thanks, Srikant. Thanks for responding. And hi, Rakesh. Unfortunately, I'm unable to create my Azure free account. It shows existing one and not allowing. I'll probably on tomorrow with other account. That's not a problem, Rakesh. That's fine. You just try it on the same, okay? And let me, I mean, write for support panel if you have any questions, okay? Doesn't mean. Cool then. So further, we have this connecting to the Windows VM. Oh, hi Ashish. My storage container is not valid. What does it mean? It's nothing like that. It's not valid like that all. Are you getting any error about it? Okay. Let's take it at the last, Ashish. I need to complete the slides, so let me go ahead. So here we have connected to the Windows VM. Okay, we have performed these things. We just downloaded the remote desktop. We gave the username and password, and then we were connecting to the VM. The next one is about creating a Linux VM using Azure Portal. Okay, either you can create a SSH key pair, or you can even try with going on the password based to create this Linux VM. So as a prerequisite, you should have putty with you. You should have putty or putty chain. You need to install it on your machine, and then you can spin up the VM, which is a Linux VM. Okay, that will give up the authenticated logins. And if you have an existing SSH keeper, you can skip the step and you can just go with the same. And you can connect to the VM by getting the output file, which you would be having it there. Or the simple thing is you can go with the password. Okay. So this will be just a demo to know how to create a Linux VM. That's it. Okay. So you can go to the compute, you can select Ubuntu server there, and then you can give the SSH key which you're going to generate, or you can even just put up the password, and the rest configurations are all the same. You can select the size, the settings on the same. You can click on create to get the VM to be created. And for connecting, you can connect with help of the remote DNS that you have, or you can connect with help of genome extension or simply using putty. Okay, so I will show this to you guys. You can go for the lab VM which we created. So let's go for the lab VM here. Oh, it's not this one, right? And here I will go for the browser, and let's open a new tab. I will go for putty.org. Okay, so I need putty, so I will go for putty.org. I can download putty here. So my machine is, if I'm not wrong, it should be a 64-bit, I guess. Let's check it. This PC. Okay. It should be a 64-bit, I guess. Let's go. Why to waste time? I will just download this Windows installer and let's run it across. I'll install putty on this machine. Just click on next and we shall install putty. Okay. Doesn't take a shouldn't take a long time research. Okay, meanwhile, let it get done. I'll show you guys. Let's go to the Azure portal and I'll create a Linux VM. Okay. So I can go to the compute and you can find the Linux VMs here. You have Ubuntu server. I can click on Ubuntu server and you can give the name here. So let's say I'll name it as Edureka Linux VM. Okay. And disk type, let's select hard disk. Username, demo user. And SSH, we can generate it once when it gets done. I hope you guys know it, right? You should have a putty gen and you can just scroll on the screen where you will get a SSH key. Using that, you can generate it, okay? Or else you can just say password and you can give the password based here. So let's give password here and yes. So that's a password based and let's put it on the same resource group which we have, module 2-rg. You can click on OK to get it created. So now again I will select A1 standard as my size. You can click on select and you guys know all these settings, configuring these things. So you can just click on OK for now. And the validation gets passed here. You can click on create to get connected towards the Linux VM. So the VM gets deployed now. Once when it gets done, you can use putty to get connected. Any questions, guys? Any questions, folks? Okay, cool, Shwendu. So try deploying the same. Okay, hope we should find it. Hi Rakesh. Yeah, creating your Linux and Windows VM is same, of course. Connection alone, you will not use RDP. You will not be able to use RDP here. You should use PuTTY here, okay, to get connected. So try that, okay. Try deploying the Linux VM and connection you can connect using PuTTY, okay. Shall I go to the next topic, guys? Okay, cool. Thanks, Shweta. The next one is about monitoring the VM using Azure Diagnostics. So in your Azure account, we were creating in your Azure VM, we were creating a diagnostics account, right? Which helps you to monitor the entire infrastructure that you have set up. And this will collect and it will track the metrics. It will analyze the log files, whatever you have, and it will also generate a metrics and it can pass message to the email through the email for the administrators. The monitoring will help you to trigger the alarms. You can even set the alarms like, let's say, if the CPU percentage goes higher or the data in, the data out, any of these things goes higher. You can set the parameters, you can set the metrics, and that can process an alert. So you can also get monitored with the resource utilization that you have, the application performance, the operational health, all those things. You can use the insights that you have here for real-time analytics also to make sense about the working of the VM and for the further deployment of the virtual machines. So for this, you can go for the diagnostic settings. I mean, at the monitoring, you have metrics, and in the metrics, you can manage it by selecting the metrics. You can find the VM there, and you can manage the things. You can also create a VM using images, but before going to that, I will show you this. You can go to the Azure Portal, okay? And in the Azure Portal, I will go to the VM which I deployed now. You can scroll down. You should find metrics here, okay? And in the metrics, you can select the metrics that you need. Let's say, for example, I will select CPU consumed. When I select this, I will get a graph here, okay? So you have the CPU credits. So as time goes, you will get a graph over here. And you can also generate alerts. Okay, so let's select this host OS disk. You get the graph utilization. See, we have that. Okay, and you can also try giving the metric alerts. You can click on add metric alert, and you can add it over here. So let's say I will name it as alert 1. This is a demo alert for Edureka. Alert on metrics, let's say percentage of CPU. When it is greater than one threshold, let's set to the very minimum one, for a period of 5 minutes, it has to email for the admin. Okay. And I can also give the additional email IDs here. So I'll set this email ID and then you can click on OK to get it added up. So the alert rule gets added and then you will get an alert by checking it for the period of 5 minutes. When the CPU threshold goes more than 1% for 5 minutes, then you will get an alert. Okay, so that's alert. And you can find the diagnostic settings also over here. You can enable guest level monitoring and you can perform diagnostics over here. The performance counter, the logs, the crash dumps that you have. So those things can be managed here. Any questions on this? Any questions on diagnostics? Can it self-heal? Hi Shubindu. Yeah, it can self-heal. You have the boot diagnostics, right? You have guest level OS diagnostics, all those things. It can self-heal automatically. Any other questions? Well, so let's go for the next one, which is about creating a VM using images. So I hope you guys would have seen that we have few images which are available at the marketplace. Okay, it's like you have the image with pre-configured deployment stacks like Visual Studio with Windows Server, Visual Studio with you have this Windows 10 Enterprise, and you have other things like WordPress on Ubuntu server like that all. Just you can go here and you can search for it. You can go to the Azure portal. You can click on create a resource and you can search. Like when I say WordPress, you can see WordPress on Linux is there. Okay, so same like that, we have plenty of templates which are available for each and everything. So what you can do is that as a enterprise customer, you can go for this link which we have here, and you can check the templates which are offered by Microsoft. So you can see we have plenty of templates which are available here. Now let's say if you want to go for web plus mobile, you can click here, and you can see we have LAMP applications, we have other things like the platform certified. Okay, so you have all those things, all the images which are available here, and you can go with anything. Let's say I need to go for containers, I can check it on the containers. I can go for compute, I can check it on the compute, what all the images that it supports with. Okay, so you can make sense from here. So you have a marketplace where you can put up the images. I mean, even you guys can create images, like you can get the license and you can make it available on the marketplace of Azure. So you can go for any of the thing and you can click on get the license. Okay, let's say here we have shown a one for Jenkins. You can search for it and you can say get it now and you can deploy the same. Okay, or else the deploying the image can also be done for searching. You can go to the marketplace, you can search for my images and you will get the image which you have selected. So you can see here, let me show you. You can search for Jenkins, right? You can search for Jenkins, you can say get it now, right? You can click on continue. So you will get Jenkins on your portal now and you can just click on create to get it created. That's it. You're just going to get the image to be added up. The next one that we have here is scaling the ARM virtual machines. Scaling the ARM virtual machines can be done using scale sets. Either you can scale it manually or you can even do it by auto scaling. The virtual machine scale sets here will put up all the virtual machines on the same scale, and you can set up the CPU metrics or you can set up the percentage of utilization, anything like that. And it can spin up the VM when the utilization goes higher. Let's say when the CPU percentage goes higher than 70 percentage, I need to spin up another one VM. Okay, so those policies you can configure here. Now, let's say I have three VMs which is running by default, and when the CPU percentage goes more than 70 percentage, I can say that I need to add one more virtual machine. So now, when it goes more than 70 percentage, another machine is going to be spinned up, and you're going to pay for that machine whenever it is utilized alone. The other time you're going to pay for only the three machines which is running by default. Okay, so those scaling policies you can put up over here. So you have to come up with a load balancer. The load balancer will make sure that it processes high availability and the network performance for the applications. You will be having a layer 4 level of load balancer here, which will distribute the traffic. The incoming traffic will be distributed towards all the instances which are available on the scale set. The load balancer will also configure the incoming traffic towards the VM, and it distributes the traffic between the virtual machines which will be available either on the same virtual network or even between hybrid networks. So you can go here, you can start creating a skill set. So I will guide you up. Let's go for the demo of creating a VM skill set. You can search for skill set here on the Azure portal, and you need to give the name for the skill set, the image that you're going to use, and you need to enter the credentials for the VM skill sets, I mean the machines that you're going to create. You need to select the subscription, resource group where you're going to deploy, and the data center location on the basic blade. The next one is your skill set blade. So now things have been completely changed. Azure often comes up with changes. Okay, you will not have blades like this. You will have one slot of window where you need to configure things. You need to configure the domain name label. You need to configure the public IP, the OS image. Okay, the instance count that you need. All those things you need to configure there. And when you click on OK, you will get the VM skill set. So there you will configure the NAT rules and everything. Okay. Now let's go for this auto scaling, and let's do the same. See, as manually speaking about it, you can go to the virtual machine. So I can go for this virtual machine which I have created. You can find size here, isn't it? And you can scale up the size. Let's say I need to go for D12 standard. I can select this and I can click on select. That is scaling up, but it's not auto scaling. It is scaling up. It is scaling up manually. Okay. Now, if you want to do it by auto scaling, you need to click on Microsoft Azure. You need to click on create a resource, and you can just say that I will search for virtual machine scale set here. Right, we get the virtual machine skill set. You can click on create to create the VM skill set, and let's name it here. So I'll name it as Edureka VMS. Okay, and you can select the image. See, we have Windows Server images, we have Linux Server images. Let's say I will select Windows Server 2016 data center. You can select the subscription here, followed by the resource group where you want to tag it. I'll put it on module 2 resource group. You can select the data center location where you need to deploy it and the availability zone for the same. So let's not go for the availability zone. This is same, the high availability what we had in the previous one. Okay. So let's now configure that. I'll give a username and a password for the same. You can configure the instance count. So it's going to be 2 instance, and size you can call it here. Let's say I need TS1 underscore V2. And you can set the priority for the machines, which is a cost cutoff solution, and the disk that you're going to use, either a managed disk or unmanaged disk. advanced settings as the IP and the DNS config. Okay, and you can auto scale it. You can say yes, you need to auto scale beyond the 100 instance as such. You can do that here. Let's enable auto scaling. So now here you're saying it is minimum number of VMs. So minimum there will be one VM and maximum there will be up to 10 VMs. The scale out is when the CPU percentage goes higher than 75, then you're going to increase one VM. So by default there will be two VMs which is running the instance count. When it gets added up more than 75 percentage of utilization, then one VM will be spinned up. So again, when all the three VM get 75 percentage of utilization, then the fourth VM will spin up. Okay, so that's scaling out. And scale in is when it gets lesser. When, let's say, when it goes for 25 percentage, then the one VM will be closed. As it comes lesser, then each and every VM will get closed and two VM will be working by default. So that's scaling. And next we have this load balancing options. You can use load balancer. You have two sort of things. You can give the IP address name. I'll say Edureka public IP. DNS name, I will say Edureka DNS. It should be unique. Okay, so you can configure the domain name label. You can click on pin to dashboard and create it to come up with a VM skill set. Any questions? Okay, cool. Thanks, Shuvendu. Thanks for responding. So let's go for create, and you can find the VM skill set will get deployed. Can you please repeat once again scaling concept? Hi Rakesh. Scaling is, there are two things. Okay, scaling is when you say you need to increase the size manually, then that is on the size which you're going to work on the virtual machine part. Okay, auto scaling is where you're going to configure a policy. You're going to say that, for example, when the CPU percentage gets higher than 70 percentage, okay, then I need another virtual machine to spin up, and that can work for the loads. Okay, so when it gets lesser of utilization, again you're going to configure the policy for that. So you have two policies, one is scale out and another one is scale in. Scale out is it breaches up. When it goes higher, it breaches up and you get one more VM to be spinned up. Scale in is when the consumption goes lesser. Okay, so when the consumption goes lesser, then the VM will close. You will come back to the default state which you had. Okay, so that's scaling. Are you clear now, Rakesh? So you will be configuring all these things with a load balancer, and that will distribute the incoming traffic towards the virtual machines which has been created. So that's what we call it as VM skill set. Hi Ashish, would it spin additional VMs or it will add more CPU resource to existing VM in the skill set? No Rakesh, it will add more VMs. It will spin up more VMs. It will not add virtual CPUs. It will spin up individual VMs. Okay? Are you clear, Ashish? Are you trying this? Are you people trying to deploy the same? It's required another VM for scale out. It's need another VM to balance load. Rakesh, can you make it simple? I'm not able to understand your question. Can you make it simple, please? In case of CPU utilization high, we can add more CPU or we can load balance the VM. Hi Rakesh. In case if the CPU utilization goes higher in VM skill set, you will spin up more VM. Okay, you're not going to add more CPU, you're going to spin up more VM, and then the load balancer takes care of distributing the incoming traffic towards the server machines. You have a number of server machines, right? So the load balancer takes care of distributing the workloads among the server machines which you have. Are you clear? Hi Shubhendu. How to attach the scale set with existing VMs? Shubhendu, it's not possible. You cannot add existing machines towards the skill set. That cannot be done. Okay? You need to put up the VM skill set by the time you do it itself. Rakesh, are you clear now? Cool thing. So here you can go for instances. You can find we have two instances. Okay? And when it gets breached up, you will get more instance which gets added. So that's about your VM skill set. Try deploying the same and let me know if you have any questions, please. How to test it is actually working. What you can do is, Shubhendu, you can develop let's say some application like Spike CPU, something like that. You can Google for it. You have plenty of applications available. You can put it on your virtual machine, okay, and then you can try it. I mean, that will increase the CPU utilization. Then your VM will go up. on the utilization, and it will help you to spin up more VMs. Are you clear, Shivendu? Cool. Let me know if you guys are comfortable. We can go for discussing the further things, which will be the end for this module. Can I have auto scaling setting? Let's say 80 percentage per CPU usage for more than 5 minutes, then scale out further VMs and load balance. Yeah, you can. You can make it Ashish. You can change by default. You will be having 75 percentage there, right? Remove that and make it as 80 percentage. That's it. It's simple. What about time? What about time in the sense? It's not about timing. It is all about the CPU utilization only. What do you mean by time? Oh, you're saying 80 percentage for more than 5 minutes. Okay, that cannot be done. No, time based auto scaling, right? Yes, yes, those things cannot be done. Okay, your question is 80 percentage for a time duration of 5 minutes, right? That cannot be done here. The time based auto scaling cannot be done here. Only based on the CPU breaches. That's it. Ideally, what you can do is that you can try with logic apps or you can try with BizTalk services all to spin up the VM that we call it on the webbook, right? You can call it on the webbook. So you no need auto scaling on that part. You can go for the virtual machine. You create an alert, right? At the last, you will be having an option, take an action using runbook like that. I mean, using webbook. You can use that and you can take an action. That's time based. Okay. In this VM skill set, you cannot do that. Shall we go for the next? Hey, oh, can we go for the next? Okay, thanks, Shivendu. Thanks for responding. So the next one that we have here is it speaks a few pointers about auto scaling. So it says that auto scaling is a built-in feature of cloud service, mobile service, virtual machines, and websites that helps applications to perform their best when the demand changes. So the auto scaling is there available not just for virtual machine, but also it is available for your web app, your mobile apps that you're going to develop. Those things we will see on the further modules. The performance means it's different things for different applications, of course. So when it comes for database, you speak about the database transactional units. When it comes for storage, you speak about the IOPS. When it comes for virtual machine, you speak about the CPU percentage. So the performance is completely different for each and everything. And you can manually set the instance count of your service, or you can even set the parameters to automatically scale, which is based on demand. So either you're going to say that you can increase the size, or you are going to say that the scale in and scale out, which will be configured on auto scaling. Okay. So couple of options are there. One is manually doing it, and the other one is auto scaling. So we have this auto scaling settings, the one which we configured now. Okay. And you can configure it. You can tell the instance count. This panel is completely different now. The one which we gone, right. You said use it by CPU settings as such. So there you can do it, or you can even see it from the Visual Studio. Sorry, from the virtual machine. Let's go for this Edureka. Sorry, yeah, yes, it should be there at Resource Groups Module 2, and it was Edureka VM1, right? So yeah, you can go here. So you can find we have size here. Okay, that's one thing. And as you go down, you can find we have alerts, right? Yeah, here you have alerts where you can add the metric alert. And when you add the metric alert at the last, you can find you can take an action by webhook. Like, let me show you. Yes. So here we have take a action. Okay. You can take an action over here. You can enable it and you can take an action. So that depends upon the logic app what you're going to build. So the further things, the one which we discussed, the on the VM auto scale, you're going to configure the scale sets, and in the scale set you're going to work, right? So you will tell the policy, and as the policy what you have configured for the scale out and scale in, it's going to work here. Okay, so you can go for scaling, you can find it here. So we have scaling, the minimum number of VMs, the default what you have, and you can find it's scaling based on metrics or scaling to a specific instance count. You're going to configure all these things. How to access the VM under scale set? Shwendu, that's a good question. So you can go for the instances. You can find instances here. Okay. You can click on any of the instance. Let's say this instance. Okay. And you should find the DNS name for this. You cannot access it individually because it's all like as a overall. You will come up with a public IP for the entire skill set, and using this you can push the application inside the VM skill sets. Okay, individually you cannot access the VM. Are you clear? The application that you're going to deploy will be the same on all the virtual machines which you have. So individually you cannot do it. Cool. So that's about auto scale which we have on the settings. So you set the target range. This is all now it's completely different. I hope you can make sense. CPU percentage, you give it as a count, right? The UI is changed now. This is the older one where we set the time range, the target range with the CPU consumption all. But now we don't have all these things. Okay, it's an older one. Hi Shivendu. VM scale sets are for app services, right? Not exactly, Shivendu. VM scale set is not just for app service. It also works for individual virtual machines. For app services, we have separate VMs. Not we cannot call it as VM scale set, but we have something called scaling, auto scaling there. That's different. Okay, and this one is completely different. What you're seeing here. It's only for virtual machines. It's not for app services. What we are working right now. Cool.
Well, so this is about scaling up and scaling down. Okay. So both of these things will be used when the resource utilization goes higher or when it goes lesser. So as we already discussed, the performance is different for each and everything. For storage, it's different metrics. For virtual machine, it's different metrics. Okay. So you need to configure as per the one which you need, and then you can set the scaling up and down policy here. You can configure either using PowerShell or you can even configure using Azure Portal. You must check the pricing tier. Okay. So the pricing tier, you should find it here. Do we have pricing here? Oh, they have removed that option. That's older one which you're seeing there on the screen. Okay. So you can see you go for scaling or you should go for the pricing calculator and you should calculate it. They have removed the option. Okay. So that's scaling price. And scaling up and down in the metrics is where you mention the like the cache capacity that you have and the workloads has to be distributed equally as per the utilization that you have. So you need to configure that metrics which is based on the workloads that you have. Okay. So that's scaling up and down metrics. And by that we come to the end of the module. Any questions? Any questions, guys? Oh, Shubhendu comes up with the answer. Okay, cool. So, which of the following ways to use Azure VM is valid? You have deployment and testing purpose, running applications in the cloud, or for extending the data center. And the final answer is all of the above. Yes, it's all of the above, where you can use it for all the scenarios that we have here. Okay, right, Eric, your answer is right. Well, the next question that we have here. Okay, that's only one question which we have. Cool then. So that's all about your virtual machine to set up the infrastructure where we were discussing about creating a VNet and creating a storage account, calling them on the virtual machine which you're going to create, attaching a disk and configuring the disk, creating a VM skill set, and working with the Linux VMs, creating a Linux VM and connecting them, all those things. Okay. So that's for your module 2, where we come to the end for the same. And before you sign off, please make sure that you go for the Azure portal, go to the resource groups. You can find module 2-RG, which we created today, and you should click on delete resource group and delete this. Okay, if not, it will cost you. Either you stop the instances or delete it. Okay, I'm not going to use it further, so I'm just deleting it. I'll delete all these things at one stretch. Okay. Hi Shuindu. Using images is nothing but you go here, see you just go for the marketplace. Wait, I will show you. I will go for Azure Marketplace. I hope we were discussing this already, right? Yeah, you remember it, right? Okay, so you can search for, let's say, for example, you can search for Ubuntu. You can select Ubuntu server and you can just go with that. Okay, cool then. Well, any other questions? That's fine, Shumendu. Anytime. Okay. So by that we come to the end for this module. Please fill the feedback form again. Okay, you will be getting it by every day. So fill the feedback form, go to the survey, and work on the hands-on. Okay, try working with the hands-on. We will be joining by next week again. So make sure that you're good with the concepts, whatever we discussed today. And if you have any questions, please write it for support@edureka.co. Okay. Hi Rakesh, PowerShell concept will come to the next module. Yes, you're right. PowerShell will come to the next one. Okay. Yes, we will be using PowerShell in the further modules. Well, thanks for joining then. See you guys on the next module by next week. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for joining, Rakesh. Thanks, Eric. See you next week. Bye bye. Bye, Shwindu. Thank you.